What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tribe of Visionaries. I'm your host, Jason Merritt, along with my co-host, Paul Birmingham, and we have a very, very special guest today, Keston Glasgow. Keston, in case you guys do not know, he is a high performance and mindset coach. He's also acquired over $10 million in real estate in a short period of time, and he really loves helping entrepreneurs increase their clarity and productivity to find fulfillment and success. So we want to welcome you, Keston. Thanks for joining us. You've been a big inspiration in my life already. I've gotten some personal coaching from you, but how you doing today, man?
Bro, I'm doing amazing. It sounds like my bio sounds a lot better when you read it. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries, man. It's all truth. So, like I said, I'm a firsthand product of your expertise and what you've done. So I can't thank you enough in my own life. But
Yeah,
so
I appreciate
I guess
that.
if you want to give us a little backfill on your story, kind of, obviously a lot of our stuff is catered to real estate and the real estate community. You're part of
Mhm.
some of the same, communities that we are as well. Kind of give us a little fill in of how you came to do what you're doing now and how you got into real estate to begin with.
Yeah, man. So my journey in real estate really started in 2015. This is a story that I don't normally tell, but my journey really started in 2015, and that's where I had first acquired a house after my ex-wife and I got separated because my son, I wanted to provide a different lifestyle for my son. And in wanting to provide a different lifestyle, I remember one day where I was taking him to the pool because I had just bought this property in New York, and I was proud. Had great amenities really close to it. The pool was like 5 minutes away. And so one Saturday in the summer, I said to him, "Hey man, let's go to enjoy the pool." And so we went to Target, Walmart, just bought floaties, snacks, everything, and made our way to the pool. And when we got there, got out the car, you could smell, like that chlorine scent when you get out close to the pool,
Yeah,
right? Like,
burn
and
your
so
eyes.
you're exactly. So you're getting it. You're hearing all of the kids like just jumping in, doing cannonballs, and you like as we got out of the car, you could see how excited my son is. So we walk to the front, get in line, get to the front where the clerk, who was a kid in high school, said, "Hey, let me see your ID." So I take my ID out and I place it on the desk, kind of like a Amex Black card, right? It's like the pride because we're getting in, we're new to the area, all that type of stuff. He takes my ID, looks at it, and says, "You can't come in." And in that moment, I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "You can't come in. You don't live in this area." I said, "Dude, I live like 5 minutes away. I could have walked here." I do. He said, "No, no, no, no. See, you live in Queens. This is Long Island. And because you live in Queens, you're not allowed to come in." See, what I had did was I thought I was beating the system, being a hustler, that saying like, if you need to get something done right, you got to do it yourself kind of thing. That was me. And I had bought this property, although I had a real estate agent. I had bought this property by myself, telling them this is the property I wanted, took no guidance at all. And because of that, I bought a property that literally on the street that separated Queens from Long Island.
Yep.
So I thought I was winning. I thought that, like, man, I'm going to pay Queens taxes, but have Long Island amenities. My son is going to be able to get into the best schools. Lo and behold, none of that became true because he wasn't a part of the Long Island community. Super frustrated for months. I was just mad, pissed off, thinking this is why the rich get richer and all of the things that people say, real victim mindset. before I had the realization that one of my coworkers actually told me, he said, bro, this is on you. You didn't use your real estate agent as a coach and a mentor, telling him what your goals were so that he could help you get the property that you really needed based on your needs. And so when that happened to me, I promised from that day forward that I was never going to allow my financial inadequacies, just like my financial education, to cause me to not be able to have opportunities ever again. And so that really took me down the path of wanting to understand this real estate thing, right? And so I jumped into real estate. I ordered DVDs back in those days from this guy who was teaching wholesaling. And I remember going through the process. My mom introduced me to some of her friends who was real estate investors. I had already gotten buyers, bro. I'm going to crush this. Found a house, went to the house in Queens, had the buyer meet me at the house. Like it was money. And the reason why is because it was all boarded up, everything they tell you to look for, right? When you're driving for dollars. So I get to the house, the agent comes out with me and the buyer. They had to take off all of the what you call it, all of the
boarding and that.
Boards. Yeah, all of the boards. They had to take off all of the boards for us to get in. And once we got in, the buyer started to say, oh my God, this is amazing. The kitchen would take about 30,000. This is in New York, right? So it's like, and the area was, high level. So he's like, the bathroom, that would be another 12, 15. Like, he started saying numbers, bro, that made me be like, what am I doing here? Literally, because at this point in time, I used to be a cybersecurity engineer. I would speak to my friends in hundreds. $1,000 was a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. And so at that point, I remembered coming out of that walkthrough with a headache and saying to myself, this man is going to rip me off because he's thinking that we'd be able to sell the house for 1.3. I'm like, what is this? This is a scam. I'm going to get ripped off. And I never called the buyer back. I never ever called the buyer back. I started to justify in that I had a good life. At that point in time, I was driving a BMW 535. I had just bought that house. My parents was living on the upstairs. I had a tenant. So I wasn't even paying for my own rent in New York City. So I was okay compared to a lot of people. But imposter syndrome got me. And it made me not look at real estate for another 5 years. I went back to my life. I went back to justifying having a good life until 2020, where by this time I was remarried and my wife and I, we had committed to doing real estate. And so in 2020, January of 2020, we got into real estate. We bought our first coaching program. This is where we spent over $30K to get into that coaching program. By July of 2020, I had left my cybersecurity job. By December of 2020, my wife and I, we wholesaled 1.5 times my 6-figure salary as a cybersecurity engineer. In 2021, we went from 1 to 21 doors. In 2022, that's when we made our first $1 million in real estate. And then we bought our son his first rental property. Then we got into multifamily, and the rest is history, man. And to add on, it was while I was doing a lot of these things, people were saying, dude, how are you doing this? And how are you doing it so fast? I want you to coach me. And I'm like, you want me to coach you? Like, why? Here comes
the imposter syndrome again.
Exactly. I'm like, what are we doing here? And so I took a while before I responded to the first person who was like, dude, I will pay you to coach me because I don't even think you understand what you have. And so this was 3 years ago. I committed to it. And I helped that person triple his business in the first 6 months. And something that I realized lately, and when I say lately, I mean like within the last maybe 2 or 3 months, he also had some personal things with his family that he wanted me to help him to regain with his family, with his wife, and that type of stuff. And he was able to do that. He was able to reconnect, and I'm like, wow, this right here is unlike any feeling I've ever gotten in doing any deal ever. I want to continue doing this. And so I just continued to grow my coaching company, coaching business, where I help high performers, people achieve their goals in a quick time. But lately, I have been more on helping married men keep their, like, let me put it this way. You know, like when you're growing your business and you're working hard, and regardless of if you're an investor or you have a 9 to 5, and your focus is like, I want to be successful, sometimes you tend to forget or grow apart from your significant other. Mm-hmm. And so these days, I spend my time helping men just like you guys be able to do both at the same time, where you're able to have all the success in real estate or business or whatever, but at the same time have that deep connection with your partner and your wife, so that nobody feels left out and you guys become soulmates again. How's that?
So that's awesome.
I want to back up just for a second. Like what you did and what you're doing for people sounds amazing. What I don't understand is it doesn't sound like you lost your job in the pandemic like a lot of people did. It seems like you were still comfortable. What was the catalyst that made you flip that switch? You know, you went from 2015 to 2020, and then all of a sudden, boom. What was that catalyst?
The catalyst was that when I got to, in 2020, 2019, and for you to understand this, I got to give you context again. So more context to this was, coming from Trinidad, I started doing demolition, cleaning my church, doing a lot of brunt work because I didn't have my papers as an immigrant, right? And so doing a lot of that brunt work and working really hard to say, like, God, if you could only give me that first 50K, like that's all I need. Then I worked hard. I got to 50K. Then it was like 75K. Then it was 100K and more. And the more I got in 2019, I remembered when I had my office where I could see, again, on Wall Street, I could see across the Brooklyn Bridge, thinking to myself, the feeling that I thought I would have, I still don't have it. Although I keep asking God for more money, there has to be more to life. And dude, I loved my job, absolutely loved my job. And it wasn't because I hated my job why I wanted to leave. It was because I wanted to understand what life was really about. Because the more I succeeded, it was the more that I wanted. And I'm like, it's not about money. I need to understand this purpose thing. And because there would be days I would call my wife crying at work, like literally crying, because I'm split in the dilemma of being grateful for what I have, but wanting to understand more. And it's like, I don't want to be ungrateful, because my life compared to most people would be like, bro, you have it made. But on the other side, it was like, but I don't feel like it. So what is it that I'm missing? And so that's when I started kind of journeying on to this, I have to figure out life. And I was willing to do anything to figure it out, because I knew it wasn't about money. I had gotten so unsatisfied with just accepting going to work and just doing what everyone did, that I couldn't accept it anymore. And so when the pandemic happened, my job, they were giving a 6-month severance package to anyone who wanted to leave, but they were also letting go of a lot of people. Now, as a cybersecurity engineer, my job, they told us, they're like, y'all are good. Please don't leave, right? You are safe. And I'm like, this is it. Talk to my wife. I'm like, babe, we've been studying. I believe, mind you, I hadn't done one deal yet, not one. And I'm
you
like,
did half a deal. You did half a deal. You got a buyer to a house. Like, you did half a deal.
That was in 2015 in New York. At this point in time, we were gonna move. So a lot happened, man. Shoot. In July as well, we moved from New York to Atlanta, quit my job, took the severance package, and it was just like, heads down, I'm gonna figure this out. Go. And that was it, bro. I was just unsatisfied with what life had to offer, just conforming to society.
I love that. I have a theory, and just a little sidebar. I have a theory that most of America is comfortably unhappy. They're unhappy. They're never going to be happy because they're too comfortable to do anything about it. And you chose to not be comfortable.
Yes, I couldn't continue on because at some point you realize that this isn't what life is about, and that was my pursuit, and that's what now I help people to discover in their own lives. That's where the conviction comes from.
That's awesome. So
yeah,
go ahead.
And I guess that's kind of how Keston came into my life, pursuing his new purpose and starting to realize what his purpose was. Obviously, he used to do the daily dial kind of mindset stuff back in the day, and that's kind of where I started tuning into him. But when he started doing the marriage stuff or the marriage coaching, that's kind of where I got involved, because both of you know, my wife and I have been together 25 years this past year. We live together, we work together, and the struggle's real sometimes. I mean, we love each other, and there was a point in time I'm just like, I don't know, as I was growing in my business and hitting it and growing to that new level, my wife necessarily wasn't on the same level. And I was like, okay, well, what can I do? And Keston kind of talked to me, and he was like, I think I can help you, man. And yeah. So could you talk a little bit about that, Keston, about how like you've been able to, I guess, people that are in the same business, or especially in the real estate business, because you do see a lot of couple teams that are doing real estate together, and some of those struggles and how you can kind of help people with that, or help men with that. I don't know how many women you work with on that, but I know you've been, a guiding light to me and some of the stuff that I've done over the past year and changes in my personal life.
Yeah, man, 100%. And thank you for trusting me to help you navigate those waters. And so what I would say, man, is that when it comes to, and I'll give you a quick story and then I'll share with you kind of like why. So this conviction came because my first marriage, because of my ambition, resulted in a divorce, right? Then I was engaged to be married, and because of my ambition, again, that resulted into her giving me back my ring. When I got married to my current wife, I started to hear very similar things that both people said that made me say, and at this point in time, I had an Amazon business, still a 9-to-5er Amazon business. And it scared the living crap out of me because I'm like, I cannot fail again at marriage. And so that caused me to quit the Amazon business. And for 2.5 years, I spent focusing on myself, on us, on coming together, because I didn't want to fail again, because divorce was the most depressing time of my life. And there's still consequences that I face and I pay today because of that divorce that happened now going on 15 years ago, right? And so that's where this conviction on being able to help people do it, because now that I've taken the time of figuring it out, especially with my wife and I, and this is it's a constant work in progress, right? I use the word figure it out, and I don't mean it in an absolute. I do mean it in a, we have a system that works and consistently is being updated and retweaked and redefined, right? So what works for me, man, and what I try to help other people do in their marriages, especially men, and Jason, it's been even more defined since you've been through it, is I try to help people run their marriages like their business. I try to help people run their marriages like their business. And how I do that is by having relatable terms and processes in their business, in their marriage, that relates to their business. Because what we as men, especially, what we think when it comes to marriage is that we got to change this entire hat and become somebody totally different than you are right now. And so it just feels like an entire separate thing that requires a lot of work. And most men, they rather, I like to say that we are like our wives when it comes to cars, where you could, the entire dashboard could be lit up with lights, but they're still going to drive it and be like, well, babe, it drives, right? Like for us, our marriage, they could say a lot of stuff. We could see the lights, but it works. They're not complaining. We don't want to fix it, right? And so what I help men do is to fix those lights by implementing these types of systems. What do I mean by system? I'll give you an example. One of the systems that we have implemented, I like to call it a relationship KPI, your relationship KPIs. Now, just like in a business, your key performance indicators, for you to know what you're doing in your business from a marketing standpoint, in real estate, I got to call 100 leads. That's going to lead to 10 conversations, and that would lead to 1 contract, right? Like that's your KPIs. You know that if you need 2 contracts, well, now I got to double the leads. So now I got to go to 200. Then I'm going to have 20 conversations. Then I'm going to get 2 contracts, right? I made that up. That's not real numbers. That's just for the example, right? But those are the KPIs. What are the KPIs in your marriage that allows you to have the outcome that you desire? It's not something most people think about, right? And so in understanding what those KPIs are, not only for you, but also for your wife, how do you feel and understanding in the area of affection, sexual fulfillment? Like there are all these different aspects of us and being that we really don't track. And if we don't track it, then what tends to happen is people would say things like, happy wife, happy life, right? And I think that's the worst thing anybody could do, because doing that happy wife, happy life teaches you to quote unquote pick your battles. And what that means is don't say anything. Make sure that she's happy, but you don't get to express how you feel about a situation because you're picking your battles, or you're going by this mantra. And what I believe is, instead of picking your battles, I believe that you should schedule your battles. And so the KPI planner allows you to, the KPI relationship planner allows you to schedule time to have these conversations, and gives you a framework in where you'd be able to share exactly how you feel and understand how you feel in different areas of your life. And that works wonders.
That's awesome. So, are you still investing in real estate currently, or are you taking a break from it? What's your current involvement?
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that giant portfolio you got.
Yeah, so that's made up of multifamily and some single family Airbnb pad split properties, which we just sold one a pad split yesterday. So am I still actively investing? I guess it depends. I guess it depends on how you look at it. Are we still acquiring right now? Not right now. We are not acquiring. My primary focus right now is continuing to really focus on helping men keep their marriages, man. That's my main focus right now. And in building that coaching business, we take the profits from that and reinvest it back into real estate.
Nice.
And what would you, I guess a lot of people could probably listen to this and think, oh, he's a marriage counselor. And, for me, like, how would you describe the difference between a coach and a counselor? Because it wasn't counseling at all, even though I would say, hey, here's like an encounter we had this week where, it didn't go quite smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
You were able to deal with that. It's not typically what a counselor would advise. So how would you describe the difference between a coach and a counselor?
So great question, because I do love to clarify this. So a counselor or a therapist, typically, if you imagine a game of basketball, right? Someone young in the game, they're trying to dribble and dunk. They go up, they get to the hoop, they come down, boom, they break their leg. They then go to the doctor. The doctor takes a cast, puts it on their leg, straighten it out, say, hey, you got to be in this cast for 6 months. After 6 months, they go to get the cast off. Then they try to do the play again. They try to dunk. They go up, they come down, boom, break their leg again. Then they go back to the doctor. Doctor does the same thing. A therapist and a counselor is like a doctor. They help you fix the thing when it's broken. Instead, getting a coach to help you learn how to do the dunk is what most people need. And when it comes to marriages, that doesn't really exist. How do you actually play the game of marriage? Giving you the plays as to what you should do, not how you should repair it. And can I help people with repairing broken legs? Sure. It's not my preference, but I can. What I enjoy doing is giving a framework as to how to be married, because if you know how to be married, the likelihood that you would continuously need to go to the doctor or a therapist or counselor, that's a lot less. And so it fixes more problems than create them.
Yeah. I would say also with some of the stuff that you've taught me, it's almost like rekindled the honeymoon stage of marriage at points in times. I mean, it's not like there was a switch flipped and overnight everything became better, but there's techniques that you've done that have created more intimacy and conversations, everything within our life now.
See, so this is kind of like the business framework, because one of the things that, I think probably 99% of marriages don't have this. It's understanding, just like a business, every business has a mission, a purpose, a vision for their business. Having one for your marriage is what aligns and make people have a common goal to working towards. And so one of the first things we did once you came in was starting to focus on you. You were the first thing that we started focusing on. Like, who are you? Understanding your purpose, your vision, your mission as an individual, but then also creating a unified mission, vision, and purpose. And so helping you understand more of you and helping you to understand kind of like the process and your responsibilities as a person, as a man, that then does something for your significant other, because now how you're showing up is just sexy to them. And so that subconsciously kind of just does something that makes them want to be more intimate and want to share more, and it allows you to kind of really lead your ship, if that may.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was going to say. I think you kind of define me being more of a leader in my own household, but I've also been able to roll that over into my real estate business and, dealing with my team, the people that I work with, things like that, even being involved in the community. It's helped me step up and be a leader more. And, typically when you're a leader, what I'm noticing is people kind of gravitate towards you more and kind of, going in the way that you want. But the same thing is also happening in my marriage, as I'm doing things and stepping up and being a leader in my marriage, I'm noticing she's gravitating to me more, and we're starting to see eye to eye more on direction of where we're going, and starting to, I guess, figure out working as a team more than, before. It's always been like, you handle the property management, I'll do the investing side, and if you need anything, let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna battle if we have to like deal with stuff most of the time. So, because she's got her way and I have my way, but we've never had that common synergy or a common ground on how to communicate with each other within the investment business or the real estate business. And she likes real estate, like she likes doing property management. She has fun with it. And like when I go to look at houses, anything like that, like she's like, oh, can I come? Like I want to, like she likes to explore. But being able to find that common ground is definitely something that we've been working on. And I think some of the things that you've helped, advise and that have helped my business as well as my marriage.
Man, that's awesome. And I'll tell you why. Because if it is that you could have the qualities at home, you could have it anywhere. Think about it. I don't know if you guys have ever taught your sister, your wife, or some family member how to drive. Have any of you guys ever taught a family member how to drive?
I tried to teach my wife how to drive stick one time. It didn't go so well. Her friend had to teach her.
It is the most frustrating thing you could do, right? Like your patience is just at minimum, right? And for most things, when you're at home, your patience is just because you believe that they should understand or they should already know or whatever. And so if it is that you could build that patience and lead the people at home in a way that is in the way that you really desire to get results, and with some of the techniques that I shared with you, Jason, then when you go out, you're going to be 10x that, because you treat people outside, and it's terrible to admit, but you treat people outside sometimes better than you treat people in your own home.
You give them more grace.
Yeah, you give them more grace. And so that's the reason why you see it translate, because it's now become who you are everywhere. That's why.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of it was just mind shift, and it kind of leads me to some of the other things that you're doing now. I saw you speak on stage a few weeks back, talking about your mind insurance and, just mindset and personal growth like that. Could you, speak to that a little bit? Like, what do you have going on with that, and how it could kind of tie into real estate and what we have going on?
Oh, 100%, man. And mind insurance is a concept that I came up with through, again, my own personal experiences. A lot of things that I end up doing is because I've gone through it. I'm not one of those people who seen something online and it's like, oh man, I should do that. And I'm all of a sudden now I'm a guru, right? So when it comes to mind insurance, you gotta think about it. We have insurance policies for every single asset that we have. When it comes to our cars, our house, man, I even have an insurance policy for my ring, right? My wife's ring. Like, we have insurance policies for everything. And let me tell you, it's cheaper and easier to get an insurance policy for your wife's ring, so that if she loses it or flushes it down the toilet by mistake, you don't get pissed off. Just saying, right? So that's a pro tip right there. But think about it. You have insurance policies for all of these things. So just in case of a crisis, some unexpected thing happening, you're protected, you're covered. And with some of the traumatic things that I went through, I'm like, what could I do so that when a crisis happens, I have this insurance policy that gets me and keeps me covered so that I could continue moving. And so one of the first elements of the policy to create a mine insurance policy for yourself is understanding the application process. Just like how when you go to you buy a new car and you call Geico and the person on the other line is like, hey, well, what type of car is it? Hey, it's a Tesla. Okay, cool. What type of Tesla? It's the Beast. It's the new Beast Tesla. Okay, great. What year? 2025. Okay, how many miles are you going to drive? What color is the car? Like, they ask you all of these questions because they want to know what kind of coverage and protection they want to give. And so the application process is the longest part of the process, but it's also the most important. And how that pertains to our life is that most people, when they create a vision for their life or when they try to pursue a new thing, a new goal, they don't really know the details of what it is. They don't have the details. And the problem with not having the details is that when you try to pursue it and have to pay the premium, you may not be willing to pay the premium, which is the second part of this framework. And the premium, let's say you wanted to buy a Lamborghini and the person said at Geico, hey, $5,000 a month. You might say, oh my God, I can't afford that. I'm not willing to pay that price for this insurance for this type of car. Well, some people who want to do multifamily investing versus wholesaling, well, there are different prices you have to pay. And the price that you have to pay for coaching, the price that you have to pay for learning how to raise capital, the price you got to pay for learning how to underwrite deals is way more than the price you have to pay for learning how to wholesale. And not understanding the difference or understanding what the price is because of the details, many people start getting into industries, getting into different aspects of real estate and end up quitting because they've never broken down what are the steps, what are the things, what's the details that I don't know yet. And before I even start, am I willing to pay the price? Now, if it is that you're willing to pay the price, you go on to the third part of the framework, which is what are the daily habits and things I have to do to reinforce my policy? Because I have a saying that I like to quote in this part is that success isn't rented. Success isn't owned, it's rented. And every day rent is due, right? And so in the same way, what are the daily habits and things I have to do to be able to achieve these goals that allow me to pay the price and achieve the thing that I really desire? And in doing that, that gives you a policy every single day in having your mine insurance so that when hard times come, you kind of plan for it. You kind of understand some of the things you have to do. It's foreseeable versus unexpected.
Yeah, we would awesome. In the Navy, we would call that muscle memory, where you're constantly beating that battle rhythm and you make sure that you know exactly so that when things go bad, you don't even think, you just act.
Exactly. There you go.
What's something that you're currently working on? I know you've got your hands in a couple of different pots right now, but what's something that you have that's really exciting to you that you're working on right this second?
Honestly, bro, sorry to sound like a broken record. So the exciting thing, and I think I vaguely mentioned this to you, is creating a married men mastermind. and this mastermind is comprised of married entrepreneurs who want to do great in their marriage while blowing up their business. And so I've created that mastermind, and that is very exciting. It's a 12-month mastermind where we go through all of the different systems that you could implement in your marriage so that it becomes this thing and have the results that you have, Jason, or you have started to get. But it goes a little, much further, because it's 12 months. And then we all connect and meet up and hang out and do retreats and all that type of stuff, because I believe that, and we all know this from being in communities, if you're not in a community of people that is focused on similar things, at some point you kind of stray, or you're not willing to do and put in the work. And so for retention, simply because this is just my life's mission, man, because I want men to win, and I do want to see change in the world when it comes to men showing up and, stopping this divorce thing. This is now a major, major, major part of what I'm working on right now.
So you're pretty much taking two of the best parts of what you're doing and bringing them together now.
Yes,
when are
sir.
you anticipating on being able to roll this out?
Oh, we're starting at the end of January. At the end of January,
wow.
We're rolling this out. I've been working tirelessly on like back end type stuff. Bought some new people on the team that's gonna help me kind of get things together, and then it's a marketing thing after that. So it looks like I got my well, you guys won't be the first, but two people to join right here, right now.
So with what you have going on and that, where are you continuing to find inspiration for continued personal growth within what you're doing, I guess? Is it from working with people one-on-one and, new challenges that may be brought in, or like,
yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think I do. Let me see if I got it. If not, feel free to rephrase it in another way.
Don't worry.
Yeah. So I really do think that this pursuit, trying to change the world, isn't easy. And as you know, right? And when you have a vision that is, like I shared with you guys, that's scary, because trying to get men who, like I said before, don't really pay attention to their marriage or think like it's working. I don't have to fix it. I don't want to mess with it, right? I don't want to like poke the bear kind of thing. Trying to be like, hey, stop. You're going to end up getting a divorce, and that's going to allow you to, like, your kids and your half of your net worth and like all of the things that happen, your self-esteem and depression, and like, just how do I get them to snap out of it and say, I actually do want to work on this thing? Just figuring that piece out is like, it boggles my mind, because I know that what I do is good. Getting the world to know and understand and to say, yes, help me. That's the part of growth that I'm like, it's like, I got to study to become a marketer now, right? Like, how do I pattern disrupt and do all these things? But it's the beautiful thing. I think this is the reason why most people don't fulfill their purpose, is because they have the skill, they have the gift, they have the talent, but they don't have the other pieces that allow them to have the impact that God really called them to have. So they end up not doing it, or doing it on a very low level instead of to its full potential. So my area of growth right now, bro, I'm learning the hell out of marketing. I'm learning the hell out of leadership and building the team, and like, yeah, it's all of that.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love your mission too. Like from my perspective, I know you're talking specifically with the entrepreneurs and the real estate investors, but coming from my background, 24 years in the Navy, I saw people completely dedicated to their profession to the point where they're leaving their families for 5, 6, 9 months at a time, maybe even a year. I mean, heck, they would be geobaching, geological bachelors halfway around the world for forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it boggled my mind because I always thought, you get married young, you screw up, you get divorced within a few years. But once you like get over that hump, you'll be fine. I didn't know this until recently. The average length of a marriage in the United States, 19 years. 19 years and people are splitting. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And bro, my parents, they just celebrated 42 years of marriage. And so they've been through it. They have been through it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're definitely people who I look up to, although I went through divorce myself. And that was one of the things that I feel like I held against myself so much. Like, man, I have no model as to what to do here. Like nobody in my family was divorced. Like, and so I had to like figure out this life. And then also try to have a vision of the life that I felt like God really wanted me to have, which is a major part of it. So man, I do agree with you. It's very hard, and the need is beyond a need at this point. I feel like it's an epidemic, and it's my responsibility, even as I go through the things and still figuring out a lot of things, to be able to share it to men, because it think about the effects, the domino effect that a failed marriage has, right? For a second. Man and woman gets divorced with kids, and kids are screwed up. Kids, they start doing drugs. Kids, they start rebelling in school. Kids start doing things. Now they're in jail. Now they're, just let's even say they don't start rebelling, but parents remarry, kids stay with mom, new dad comes in the picture, and now statistically this is shown and proven that abuse in the home is it's 10 times higher in a in a family with somebody coming in, a husband coming in, not even to talk about sexual molestation and all that type of stuff. And we're just getting started with this domino, right? Like there's so many things that happen, bro, that then trickles down, because now they're screwed up. Now they have their own family. Now they're going through their own stuff, and boom, divorce again. And this just goes on for generations and generations and generations. And so the work that I'm committing to and doing now is way beyond me. The reason why I'm starting with entrepreneurs and real estate investors is because as a business owner, even not as a business owner, we look up to business owners. And if it is that I look up to Jeff Bezos and I'm like, well, he got divorced, so why would I get married? Because to be successful, clearly it doesn't work. Now, mentally, I believe that to be successful, marriage doesn't work. So why would I get married? And so if all the successful people and most people look up to entrepreneurs and business owners and people who are wealthy, if they're getting divorced, if they're not in position that's married, then the kids who are looking up to people are going to believe that this is true, and it's not. And I've found evidence I got this book right here, Sam Walton, and like all these other billion-dollar companies who were able to create massively successful companies doing it with their family.
Yeah.
And so I study these guys to take bits and pieces so that I could then teach it and say, hey, I know this is what you see, but here's proof that it's possible. Like, don't look at me. They did it. Let's do this together, right? And so, man, my conviction on it is it brings me to tears sometimes, man, honestly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're doing great things. I don't know if I told you, but when we had some time together a couple of weeks ago, Keston got me to do my first cold plunge. All right. And just to give you an idea, I don't know what it was. I'd actually been to a place in Myrtle Beach where they have the saunas, they have the cold plunge. I walked in, I checked it out, I did everything, and I never did it. And then I spent my time with Keston, and he was like, hey, we're doing a cold plunge. And, we went through the process. And I didn't even think anything about it when the time came. I just jumped right in. And then, I was sitting there talking, and next thing I know, I was at 5 minutes. But
5 minutes, bro.
Yeah. It was awesome. Thank you for pushing me, man. I appreciate it. And thanks for everything. So I have we're wrapping up on time here shortly, but we have a section that we normally do in this event. It's called questions or deeper thoughts with the Sheik. And I don't know, Steven, are you available to do it right now?
Yeah.
Or are you out on the road? Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. We will rock and roll here. And so just in case you don't know, I think you've actually seen this deck before, but we rolled a deck of deeper thoughts. We have a little spin wheel, and I will spin it, and it'll pick something here. Looks like it's going to be blue. Courage is going to be the question.
Blue.
So this just helps us get to know a little bit more about you.
Let's go.
Keston, I gotta say, man, I really enjoyed listening. I was listening in the whole time. Of course, I wasn't able to I was of course doing whatever, so I wasn't able to tie into your talk and everything. But I really appreciated everything you were saying. I'm actually divorced twice. Just bad luck in my own life, of course. But everything you were talking about, I've thought about quite a bit in the past. And I think it's beautiful that you're doing some good things for planning a good thing for the married entrepreneur, and helping men's mindsets. I think that's a beautiful thing. So
thank you, man.
I appreciate all you're doing. So we have the blue card here. Just pulled one out for you. It says, where are you not accepting that you're part of the problem? So this kind of ties into maybe possibly what you're talking about, or something else. Where are you not accepting that you are part of the problem?
Where am I not accepting that I am a part of the problem? So moment of vulnerability. Over the weekend, my wife and I, we were having our KPI tracking meeting, all right? And in that conversation, she said, babe, you've mentioned things that I could do. What could you do here? She's like, what could you do? And he's like, I hear you say, well, what could you do? And in that particular, where she brought it up was in more of a self-improvement area, right? And am I not part of the problem? Maybe. But bro, I live, breathe, eat, sleep, self-improvement. You know what I mean? It's like
Who's
literally.
coaching the coach, Keston? Who's coaching the coach?
That's
But
true.
I have several other coaches too, so it's like, I don't know. It's like, and so I don't, like, right now I have 1, 2, 3 coaches in different things, different areas. Do I have a therapist? I don't. I don't have a therapist. I have coaches.
You don't need a doctor. You don't need a doctor.
So I don't know.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick. So that KPI question, where came with self-improvement, are you willing to share what it is that was being referred to as far as what self-improvement was necessary or could be considered?
So she was asking, like, hey, how are you a part of the problem, right? Like, what could you do, because you're also a part of the problem? And I believe that the specific thing we were talking about was things that I do that makes her respond in a certain way.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like, so if she responds in a certain way to me, what did I do that caused her to respond in that way? And do I have room for improvement? Absolutely, right? Here's where I justify. Here's where I justify, right?
Maybe that's part of the problem right there. It's just
so hear me out. Hear me out.
Okay.
Most things that come out of that meeting, I implement, I try, I do, but still have the same result. And so at this point, when I share, like, hey, you asked for this, I tried that, I tried this, I tried that, I tried this. I don't know if that's really the thing, like, and so that's what I mean. And again, I am willing to continue to try many different things, right? And so the reason why sometimes this is like a phase 3 of our conversation, because there's a part of the conversation where I just don't say anything. I just receive, because KPIs are indicators. They're not like I don't need to justify why we only got one contract, right? I just need to see it and make an adjustment. But in this part of the conversation where we were having this conversation, it wasn't me really defending myself. It was really more just kind of saying, hey, man, we've tried this, we've tried that. I've tried, like, I've made adjustments. I'm not sure. I don't know. So that was kind of more it than me saying there's nothing. I'm always willing to be wrong, but I'm going to be right until I am wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I understand that completely. Like, I wouldn't do what I was doing if I didn't think I was right. So I'm going to do what I do because I think I'm right until you show me I'm not. So that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah,
Do you think maybe you're not recognizing the emotional aspect on her part, though, like where she comes from emotionally, maybe, and saying that, hey, I need you to recognize it for this reason, or maybe it's just the perspective of your.
There's always that possibility, right? There's always that possibility, and this is where, from an emotional aspect, and while I say this, mentally, my philosophy is that it's always my fault. always my fault.
Love that
As a leader.
That's just being in a marriage. It's the man's fault.
Yeah, like no, but as a leader, right? Like if it is that I don't figure out how to not cause that reaction to happen, that's on me. That's not on her, right? Even though it may not, even though it may be, how do we get help so that this stops?
Yeah.
As a leader, I have to be able to communicate that and incentivize and have influence that we get the help so that this stops, right? And one of the ways that we do that is by, I realize that, and you guys might have experienced this too, where you've said something to your wife 100 times, somebody else says it, and all of a sudden it's like a new idea. It's like, oh my God, I never thought of that. And you're like, I have been saying this for the last 10 years, right? Like that's what it feels like. And so what I had to do in terms of like, I consider this leadership where you don't try to win the battle, you try to win the war, is third parties work best for us, where she may hear them easier than hearing me. Before I used to take real offense to that because I'm your husband. You should listen to me. Right? And because that didn't help me win the battle or the war, I'm like, you know what? Let me help here so that ultimately the message gets across, and that then builds trust and respect in me over time. And so I'm willing to do whatever it takes for us to win, because my goal isn't to say she's the problem. That's not my goal. I have a lot of things that I need to deal with myself. As a leader, it's how do I help us both grow with things, right? And so I'm always wrong because I'm the leader of my home. So if we don't meet certain things, it's because of me. I'm wrong. So,
well, thank you, Keston. I really appreciate your time here today. I know you're on a schedule most of the time, so we're not gonna hold you up. But how can people get a hold of you to find out more about you or what you have going on?
I mean, the Marriage Mastermind would be amazing, but you got to get in. So to know about the Marriage Mastermind, you can hit me up on social media, Instagram at Kes on Purpose, Instagram Kes on Purpose. Facebook is just my name, Keston Glasgow. But Kes on Purpose on all social media platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn is my name, Keston Glasgow. So it's either Kes on Purpose or Keston Glasgow on all social media platforms.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, you guys connect with Keston on there, see how he can help you out. I'm a personal, voucher for him. I mean, he's done amazing things for me already in my life. So, I appreciate and love you, brother. You guys like, share, or subscribe to this channel and help us out. But thanks again, Keston, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. And thank you, guys.
Yeah, Keston, you're the man, man. I gotta say, this first time meeting you, and I'm highly impressed, man. You're a beautiful soul. So
thank you, bro.
It's a beautiful thing, man. Thank you.
Have a good one, brother.